Welcome everyone to Loud and Proud Orlando. It's Monday, February the 3rd, 6:35 p.m. Thank you so much for everyone that's live with us right now. About 25 people live. I'm here with John. We're going to be talking about some insightful news today. Obviously, the news about Atuesta, Eduard Atuesta. What's the latest on Atuesta? What's going on with Marco Pasalic. We're going to be talking about that. Also, possibly the MLS schedule being changed for 2026. We'll discuss all of that and more. And I think I'm forgetting something else as well. I think the U.S. Open Cup. Yeah, the U.S. Open Cup. Orlando City playing the U.S. Open Cup again. Definitely excited to be playing a tournament of that magnitude once again. We're back in the cup. Hopefully, another trophy on the horizon for the Lions. John, how are you, my friend? How's everything?
It's great, man. Good to see you. It's just another a week of chaos here. Hold on, there we go. A week of chaos. Like with all these things. The weekend brought a lot of news. Pasalic, one that there was rumors it was gone away is definitely looking like it's happening. Atuesta is big news. Get into that. Like you said, Open Cup and also MLS schedule change. So I'm like you, Luis. I'm excited, man. It's ready. Let's get into this. I think now is the week of like the preseason, like all this work they've been doing, hopefully coming together. And if we get these players in soon and get them in before the beginning of the season, get some preseason games together, that would be great. So things looking very much, hopefully, on track. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to be reading all your comments as well. Thank you so much for your support. We're Loud and Proud Orlando. We are live, about 40 people live right now. So stay tuned. Let's read some comments real quick. Giorgio, Nicolas, and Pasalic, right winger, Atuesta to replace Cartagena. Need also substitute of Angulo, Ramiro, and another center back. I think, we have Sakata, so I'm content with Sakata on the left. Ramiro, Duncan Maguire's comeback date is sooner than expected. So I think we should be all right with that. And another center back, you got Thomas Williams. So I think it's time to see some of the kids, but I totally agree with you as well. David Albury, I think we can get away without a replacement for Angulo, but center back for sure. Good evening, everyone. Vamos Orlando. Miss Francis, good evening, everyone. Counting down to the start of the season. Correct. Joshua Tall, hey, John and Lewis. Thankfully, now we're getting closer to getting a few players. Correct. Salty H2O, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Salty. Appreciate to Joshua, to Salty, to everybody that's online. Around 50 people live. Drop us your thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. All right, so a lot of people within the community, freaking out a little bit about, all these other markets, exploring options for some of their players. A lot of uncertainty and quasi negativity amongst a lot of people of what Orlando is going to be doing. And then here you go, the window doesn't close till April the 23rd. Obviously, the boys they were training really hard in Mexico as they did last season. Last season, despite them stumbling in the first half, they reached Eastern Conference Finals. So they were back in Mexico training, and then boom, the news of Marco Pasalic comes along, a 24-year-old Croatian winger, former Borussia Dortmund 2, former Stuttgart as well. He played Stuttgart, and currently in Rijeka in the first division of Croatia. Five games with the Croatian national team. 24-year-old. I don't know. What are your first thoughts of this signing? And then now Fabrizio Romano pretty much confirming that he's going to be, getting to Orlando, John?
I mean, I like this signing a lot, man. I think we've done a lot of like DPs coming out of South America, and I think for me, it excites me to get an attacking DP, out of Europe. One that I believe, has obviously played at a fairly high level for Europe in European clubs as well. I think for me, I feel like, the time he spent with Dortmund too, I think that was, some really good valuable minutes there. And then also after that, of course, he's been, playing some games in Croatia for his club at the moment, which, even though Croatia's not a massive league, I do feel like he's been playing a lot at a fairly high level, playing some European games. I think it's a guy that at 24 years old, Luis, has a lot of time and obviously had a lot of options in Europe. Like, I think this is a guy that could have stayed in Germany or been in Croatia, or he had lots of different options for him. He could even move to like the championship or gone to a French club. Who knows, right? And the fact that we have had the ambition to go after a guy like this, I think he's one that kind of falls through the gaps in Europe, and I think for us to say, okay, this is a guy that we are happy to spend 5 million on, I think is smart money in the sense that we spent, 7.5, I think it was on Faku when he was age 21, and obviously that paid off. If you're going to go out and spend 5 million on a 24-year-old, in 3 years time, if he's, an incredible player at 27, you might be able to sell him for a lot more than that. So there's big advantage in the future on this deal. I just think there's a lot of upside. um we'll have to see, if we get it over the line, Luis, and he comes in, how good, he is going to be compared to the MLS level. He might be a very good player for 5 million. If you look around the league, Almiron coming back, yes, could be a great signing, but they spent 10 million on a 30-year-old. If you really look at it that way, of course, proven in MLS, et cetera, et cetera. But for me, 5 million on a DP at 24 years old, who's got a lot of experience in Europe and has played in some big clubs, and had some looks, like you said, for the Croatian national team as well, which is not a national team to sniff at all. I think this is a very good signing, and I'm excited to see, where he lies in the level. And in terms of like what he can actually do, Luis, it's a Facu like replacement. He's left footed. He plays on the right wing. Steps in. But I think he's a bit more, adaptable than that. I've seen lots of clips of him being able to like use that right foot, at least make a pass with it. Maybe not shoot with it, but I think he's a bit more flexible than Faku was in the way that he plays that role on the right wing.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to Pasalic, to me, he's a player with a lot of upside, with a player that, Orlando's known for, especially Oscar's side. Uh, Orlando's known for getting players that have something to prove, that need minutes, that are yearning for something better than themselves, that want to prove something, to the world. And Oscar and his staff is able to take those players and, give them a platform and make them part of a group in which they can thrive. Dagger Dan, that's one big example. Hopefully Brecalo this season. You have Angulo having no minutes in Palmeiras. You had Ramiro Enrique, Ojeda. So you have all these players. We're getting this player for a lot of people really don't agree with the valuation. There's a lot of numbers being thrown off. It could be less. I don't think it's more than that. But I believe it's an investment. Definitely, he's not Facundo Torres. I mean, I think we're not going to have a player like Facundo Torres. I mean, he's his own person, but I believe he's going to be a workhorse, a player that also has a lot of upside, and why not? When Diego Rossi first came into the MLS, no one he came kind of like Pasalic. It was a lot of uncertainty of him being fit and how much he was worth, and look how he killed it. You know what I mean? With every team he's been with, LAFC, Columbus, he's killed it. Pasalic could be the same route. Also, we have Nico Rodriguez. We're forgetting about that on that same wing. So it's not like technically. I think we're literally. I feel like we're getting a little extra depth on that wing for Facu. I don't know how you feel about that, John.
No, I mean, I think it was always like when we brought in Rodriguez, we heard from the club that that was not the end of it. So now we have two right wingers. You know, if we bring in, we get Pasalic over the line, and then we've got two left wing options, of course, Angulo, and we feel like Cicada is pretty much there. And then, you know, you've even got guys that might surprise you, like maybe even Caraballo at some point gets some minutes in there. There could be other options out on the wing. Shaq Mohammed, another one that might be able to get some minutes. So looking at those guys as like very deep, like depth options, I feel comfortable with our wing if we get Pasalic over the line. Luis, he's valued on transfer market at about 4 million. I don't know how much stock people take in that, but if we're looking about a 5 million, I think it's, you know, right valuation or a little bit more than that. He's definitely a player that could easily stay where he is and be in Europe. And so I think it's, I wouldn't say a coup, but I
I
think
mean,
it's
he
a
could
bit
play
of
in
a,
a.
it's good that we're able to kind of steal him away to come to America. And we've been able to convince him like this is a project that you would be interested in at the age of 24. You know, it doesn't happen a lot from Europe at that age. We don't see it a lot, really. Not with a
I mean,
player, I think, of this level.
he's German, so he was born in Germany. He's from Croatian descent, but he's a German player.
Yeah.
Don't get mistaken. So to get a 24-year-old German kid, it's a big deal. Um, I talked to a colleague that covers. He's Croatian, and he told me, I'm kind of surprised that he's actually choosing the MLS. Because he could play, like you said, in a mid-tier, either a top two Bundesliga two team or even a mid-tier Bundesliga team, and be fine. But I think what he wants is truly the minutes. So, because his goal is to be in the Croatian national team, and so he feels, look, I'm going to a market that it's a little bit different than what I'm used to, which is the MLS, with this team that it's always been, playing for something, and I'm gonna give my all. And he's trying to, grab that brass ring here in the league, right? So if we're getting a player that's motivated to make an impact immediately, I'm all ears. And I think Oscar also wants people that are going to, you know, have that mindset of competing, and to showing off their skills, kind of like what Angulo did when he first came in. Angulo came in and he's like, hey, I'm just gonna listen to Oscar, listen to his staff, and I'm gonna just take my game to another level. So I'm happy with the signing. I'm definitely happy with the signing. Yes, it's not your, Jovelich, it's not your typical, big name, recognizable name, but I do agree that it's a name that could definitely pay a lot of dividends for the Lions. Uh, let's read some comments real quick. We have Tiosao do Verdao says, I like Palmeiras. Good job. I live in Florida, but I am from Brazil. My players from Palmeiras. Atuesta go to Orlando. Uh, uh, Nosotros vamos a falar de Atuesta en 20 minutos. Si você quiere dejar tu like, I will appreciate it. We're going to be talking about Atuesta in just a moment. JC Beast, buenas noches, everyone. Counting the days to start the season. Thank you so much. Jeffrey O, how are you guys feeling with the squad depth lately? That's a good question. Your thoughts on Kansas getting Jovelich for only $4 million? It seems like a steal, says Salty. What are your thoughts on the depth, John?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've actually that perfect because I have my depth chart ready to go, so we can
Perfect.
kind of pivot onto that for a second. Yeah, I mean, I was putting in Atuesta here. If that's going to happen, we'll talk about that in a minute. This DP winger, then just for, let's just say these are not over the line, of course, but we'll just say for now, Pasalic is in there as well. I feel like there are some good depth. We kind of talk about this, I feel like, every week on the pod, but the big thing for me is a left-footed left back, one that can back up Rafa Santos, because we really don't have that. And then maybe another defensive mid option, Luis. You know what I mean? Because Jabert, maybe Colin Gusky, maybe, but I think they're just more really like OCB ready guys. So if something happens with Cesar, or if Atuesta does come in, and we just need another player there, in my opinion, who's MLS level ready. So maybe another D mid. Those are the real kind of options. Perhaps now, of course, we got to remove Jack Lynn. So maybe another striker would be nice, a backup like a veteran striker or a very young, sort of like 18 to 21-year-old striker that could come in. Maybe we'll see. We do still have a U22 slot available, Luis. So we'll see maybe what we'll use that for. One of those positions, I think, is most likely.
Yeah, for
What do you
sure.
think? What's your number one
Well,
kind of like depth concern?
I saw a lot of people online tweeting and talking about they want a goalkeeper. Um, I really feel very strongly about Javier Otero and Mercado. I think those are going to be
Mercado
the
did get signed back. We
yeah.
never really talked about that, but that did happen.
Yeah, so I think goalkeeper corps. I think that's what we got. I think there's not going to be no goalkeeper. I don't know how people could feel a little unease on Otero and on Galese. Seems kind of weird, but is what they feel like. But I feel like goalkeeper corps were okay. I agree with you on maybe another defender for sure, somebody that could play uh, center back and left back. I think could be good. Also, Cesar's post. Now that we're getting Atuesta, definitely that's going to help out tremendously. But I do feel like we still need a little bit more depth there. At least one more guy, maybe an MLS ready person. Um, and when it comes to the attacking third, I think based on knowing Oscar, I think that's what we got. I think that's what we're going to be riding with.
Yeah.
I don't see any attacking piece added. I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, I think maybe a striker could be nice, but I think they
Yeah.
would they would look at like other guys like Nicolas Rodriguez. I think probably can play the 9. They would say Muriel will play the 9 if he has to, like Oscar said after the preseason game. So yeah, I think they could just kind of live that one out. But I would like to see another. We could bring someone up from the academy. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see who's available who could play the 9. Maybe they'll find a young guy. But we still have that U22 slot. But I would like to use that maybe on a left back. If it was me,
Yeah.
Luis, a U22
I,
left
I,
back
I
could be
agree with
really
you.
good, or
A
another
really good one.
U22 D mid. I feel like attackers U22s we've got, just in general, young attackers, we have a lot. So maybe a veteran striker, Luis. We talked about that before as well. So that's an
Yeah.
option. We'll
I don't
see.
know if
We'll
Rui
see where we
Diaz
go from that. Rui Diaz is not happening.
or Kai
Marco,
Kamara, he's always available.
oh no! Why you always bring out Kai Kamara? You want to drive me crazy. Marco Pasalic, hopefully we're gonna see him soon. There are some other guys around the league in striker, Luis, that could be available. We'll see.
Mira,
We'll
acá,
see. But it has to be the
William
right
says
guy.
William Diaz says here, John Hassani Dotson too expensive.
Hassani Dotson, I think just if we're going for Atuesta, I think it's like too much. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like I think if we were going to not get
right.
Atuesta, Hassani Dotson would definitely be a guy that I would love to use
Yeah,
that new rule on and go spend some money. Like Jack McGlynn, man, he's going to
man, I
Houston. I
know.
told you, Luis, I was like, yo, I think there's an opportunity here for Jack
Yeah,
McGlynn.
you
He
were
would have
right,
been a
man.
great guy for us. So, there is opportunities to go after players like that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I do also want to answer Salty's question. He says, your thoughts on Kansas City and getting
Yeah,
Jovic for $4 million seems like a steal. Yeah, like I want to see us do some business inside MLS. I don't know. Maybe that's just something the front office is not interested in, Luis. We don't. When was the last time we signed a guy inside of like Petrasso? I'm trying to remember a last deal we did with a guy brought inside MLS. Like we've sent
yeah.
guys out, like we sent out Juan and other guys inside of MLS, but who have we bought in? who have we transferred in from another MLS club? I'm struggling to think of any guys off the top of my head recently, apart from Petrasso. So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that if we would have signed Joveljic, it would have stole Duncan's thunder. And
Phil,
also, I feel like if you think about it, yes, it would have been a great competition for Duncan, when also the team just invested a lot in Duncan.
yeah.
So if they're getting, and I know this sounds petty, right? But that's how clubs are. I mean, they just
Yeah.
sign for a big deal this striker. Why would you bring somebody that's gonna, take away
Well,
his
we brought
thunder a
Nico
little bit?
Ladero. He's the other one, I guess, we're thinking about, but
Yeah,
I'm thinking more like younger signings, not so much like other older players like Felipe, same thing in that,
yeah.
I want to see us go out and like we're talking about with, Jack Lynn, go out and take another or the Jovic thing, go out and take another key player from an MLS club. That
This
that would
is
be what I'd love to see.
what happened with Evander, bruh. Since Jeffrey O. Well,
Jeffrey.
don't get him off the negotiating table yet. You know what I mean?
He's not moved anywhere yet. Like, it's still up in the air. I think they're just really waiting till closer to the end of the window on that
Yeah,
one. I
the
think they're gonna get all their bids in, and then eventually Portland will see where he wants to go, if he wants to go. But I don't think it's gonna be to us, Luis. I gotta say. I think Ojeda is in that position. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it would have been really great, to be honest with
yeah.
you. But
If Ojeda had left, Evander would come in there, but I
yeah,
don't think it's gonna happen. I think the rumors of him going to, what was it, Estudiantes, cooled down. So
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I know a lot of people feel, and I know there's things that come out from down south. You know, aside of Brazil, there's no one in South America that can compete money wise with the MLS. Even Boca Juniors and River Plate are having a hard time signing players. So I would, aside, like, I know Mineiro, I know anybody from Brazil can compete with the MLS money wise, because it's the literally the biggest, is the only league that's well run over there. The rest of them, unfortunately, financially, are just being clobbered. I know Ecuador is doing a little better, and I know also maybe some of the Colombian teams. Some of them are financially stable, some of them, but the rest of them of the region, aside of Boca and River, there's really no one that can compete in Argentina, for example.
yeah,
So when people tell me, oh, Estudiantes wants this player, yes, yes, they have an owner that has a lot of money, but so do we. You know what I mean? It just depends how you want to use that money, right? So, and they're not going to use it just to buy, a player that they want a bargain. You know what I mean? And or they want a player and paid in 6 easy payments of 39.99. You know what I mean? That's not going to work for a lot of teams. So,
yeah.
um, so Atuesta, that's the next one.
Yes. Let's move on to Atuesta. The big one, that came out on, when was it, Luis? I want to say Saturday. Did we get that Tom Boger, the Fabrizio Romano tweet?
Yeah, yeah, you got it. It was a
Yeah,
Tom
let me.
Bogert.
I'll bring it up here. So yeah, I mean, it's. Do you want to talk about it first? Start us off on Palmeiras.
Yeah, I mean, it's a player that I think the whole entire city fandom has seen him play. Uh, it's definitely a plug and play replacement for Wilder Cartagena, which until now we don't know yet what are the extension of his injury. So we're going based on that Peruvian uh info that we threw out on LPO. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think it's a player that also down the road it's going to pay dividends. Wilder's in his last part of his deal as well. I think his deal ends on at the end of this year. So I think it makes a lot of sense. 27 years old, still a lot left in the tank. Colombian, so could definitely have the rapport with Oscar and his staff. And he won the Shield with LAFC. He was a huge part of the Shield in 2018. So two titles with Palmeiras. Now the thing is, what has brewed recently, and the most updated stuff that we have on this, is that the club first hinted to Palmeiras based on I think you put it on today, O Globo, I believe it is the outlet. They hinted that Orlando wanted a loan bid, to pay a percentage of his wages, and Palmeiras said, "There's no way we're going to accept that." And so, you know, eventually later on, hours passed by, and according to the same outlet and a lot of Brazilian media, I actually saw it on TV. I was checking out some of the Brazilian news. Leila Pereira, which is the president of Palmeiras, she said that she's going to be deciding if they're going to be selling Atuesta, and she confirmed that they've received an offer from Orlando City for the permanent deal for Atuesta of $2 million. So $2 million, which is 11 million reais, and they're gonna definitely think about it. But you know, the bottom line is, guys, whether Atuesta likes it or not, he has no space in Palmeiras. So he's gonna get zero playing time again this year. They just got this player they just signed, uh, Martinez, I believe, and so clearly he's gonna have no space on the roster. So um, I don't know. They paid 3.2 million for Atuesta from LAFC, and if they're getting 2 million back, I think to me it's a good deal. I don't know. What are your thoughts regarding that, John? I feel like it's a good. I think this could they could definitely accept this offer in the next few hours.
Well, I think it's very interesting because there's so many indications. Like, usually when you read like, okay, they've had a stumbling block in the negotiation, it's like, okay, well, it's cold, or it's not going to work, or they don't want to transfer them, or the player's not interested, or whatever. There's absolutely nothing in here to say that it won't work. Like, yes, we went in for a loan offer first, but that's just because we were probably like, hey, let's see if they'll do that, which is just good GM work, right? Let's see if they'll go for a loan offer. They were like, nah, we don't want to do that. Obviously, they have a new player, this guy, Emiliano Martinez. They also have this issue where it says here with, the registration. They also want to get him off the books permanently. So everything is just screaming like, we're ready to sell this guy, and we're ready to sell him for a good price. And if you make us the right offer, we'll make a deal, right? So I feel like that's what this about 2 million in US currency is. I think I think that's a good deal for him. I think he's valued around 3.5 or something, or 4. So it makes sense. 3.7 was what they spent on him a couple of years ago. I think they would happily take it, and as long as we can get his wages about right, I mean, that might be an issue for us. Maybe I think they gotta balance, make sure we got enough availability and enough GAM and all that. But of course, that's what they're paid to do. So let's hope that we can make it happen. I think Palmeiras are ready to sell him. I don't see any indication like they wouldn't want to make a deal, Luis. And the offer that we are seeing of about 2 million seems very fair to me. So I don't see why they wouldn't want to take that. And hopefully we can hear soon that we are, past the club transfer negotiation point and into the player negotiation stages.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, this is I mean, they're not gonna get. I mean, for a player that is not even a starter, for a player that number one, I mean, Brazilian. Look,
Well, they're just like not going to use him. And that's the thing, right? Like
Correct.
they're just they
Right. They're
basically
not
they
going to
can't
use him.
register him. They don't. He's just like in
Right.
limbo. He's like, yo, like
Yeah.
what's
He
happening
can.
now?
There is right now. There's a foreign player cap in Brazil, and they're right there. So he cannot play, the Paulistão. So if he cannot play the Paulistão, he's screwed. I mean, he's gonna have no playing time this year. So he's gonna. I mean, something's got to give, and they invested 3.2. They're getting 2 million, right? And I mean, it all could be negotiable. And I think Orlando. I know for Atuesta as a player, it's probably hard because look, think about this. I went to LAFC. I won what I wanted. I went to Brazil, a better market. It didn't pan out the way I thought it was going to pan out. I won a couple of championships being the bench of the bench, right? But I still, kind of as a player, want to stay in Brazil out of ego because I know I can do better, right? But then there's this offer from Orlando, and Palmeiras doesn't want to give me any minutes. What am I going to do? So I kind of feel for Atuesta, also kind of being a little bit maybe not as receptive as but trust me, Edward, if you're listening, no one's going to love you more than Central Florida, man. I think just as you give your best years to LA, bro, in Orlando, the fandom, the city, the team, the coach, I mean, you're not going to just any team, dude. So I think you're gonna have a great opportunity to definitely set your mark here. Now, a lot of people are asking, and I know that you're putting his transfer market. Is that correct?
No, no. This is just for me. Like sometimes like you gotta like read the lay of the land on things, and like if you look at the last you know few games for him, like it shows January 16th he had 12 minutes. Then
Yeah,
he had 17 minutes on the 18th, and
yeah,
then on the 23rd against Santos, he had 13 minutes. And these are like some of these are like, and then the next two are really not that big clubs at all, and like the next three in Brazil are not big clubs, right? So he's not even getting played in these games against smaller teams in Brazil. And I think that says a lot to me. He got not he was on the bench on the 26th and on the 28th, and then yesterday not in squad, Luis. And that to me is
yep,
like a giant banner of like he's out the door. He's
yeah.
basically they brought in the new guy. This is obviously the registration change. They've done that like right before the window. I don't know if it's closed. I assume it is like on the European schedule. So it's like about to close today. So I think he's gonna be not in squad for the rest of the season. So they have absolutely no reason not to sell him and get him out the door now before the window closes. And I don't know. I'd have to look up when the window does close for Brazil, but it might be the case that this is already done if their window is closing on the same schedule as
Yeah,
Europe.
we are dangling a $2 million carrot right now.
Right. We're like, hey, you got to get this guy off your books. Are you
Yeah,
going to do it or not? And also, I think the other thing, I don't know how much you've really spoke to this, Luis, but the Palmeiras relationship we have is great. And you
it's
posted
great.
about it, I posted about it, and that's a massive plus for us in this situation. Is like, yeah, like we went to them and said, hey, loan, and I'm sure like the reporters want to report like, oh, they didn't like that, and it was bad, and it was like,
I'm
yeah, but
sure.
it's not like they're walking away. They're gonna go, oh,
Right.
Orlando City, that doesn't work for us, but let's work out something that does work out for us, and obviously with the Faku sale and everything we've done recently with them and all the business that's been so successful, I think the relationship is good. So that bodes well for us finding a price point that works. And like we said, they're just not going to play him. So why would they not want to sell him? Even if they're like, okay, we'll pay a little bit of his wages, maybe if they have to, they might even do that. They just might have said loan doesn't work for us at all. So
Yeah, and it makes sense what you say that they're entitled to say, "Hey, this deal doesn't work for me. Can you offer something else?" And I think that's probably what happened. If we want to do this permanent, how much will you offer? And then Orlando's like, okay, well, I'll give you 2 million and a chicken tender sub, you know. and so obviously makes a lot of sense that this could get done. Now, um, And I know probably for Atuesta, again, I feel like I'm just gonna be completely honest. Brazilian teams do this to a lot of non-Brazilian players. Look at Angulo. Why would you sign a player like Angulo from Colombia? You know, I think they pay $1 million or something for him. 0 minutes. All they did is just pull the Chelsea. They just loan him out everywhere. And the kid didn't get no minutes, no respect. So why would you do that, right? So big clubs in Brazil tend to do that sometimes. Just try to get this diamond in the rough, thinking that's going to pan out the way they want, and it doesn't. They did this to Angulo, and look at Angulo now. I'm sure Angulo would have said, "Shit, if I would have come to the MLS sooner, like I would have been like probably getting paid way more than all these other players." But things happen for a reason, and I think with Atuesta, he already has the pedigree of succeeding in the MLS. He knows the system. He knows what it takes to win, and I understand the ambition he has, but you also have to be realistic on your limitations. And I think realistically speaking is, bro, Palmeiras, great badge, fancy name, great jersey, all you want to do, great torcida. But bro, they ain't gonna give you the play. You're not gonna have no minutes, man. And
Oh
that
yeah,
number right there, that $2 million valuation that transfer market's giving you, it's just gonna tank.
I'm sure it was very appealing at first to go there, like you said it, but now it's sort of like a few years on, he's not getting in the team anymore. I'm sure MLS at this point seems like an extremely appealing place to come back to. And I think we are a perfect fit for him. With the Colombians we have, the culture we have here, I don't see any reason why he would not be interested in coming and playing for us as well. So I hope that we'll hear, Luis, soon that things are moving in the right direction on this one. And later in this week, we'll have maybe the signing of Pasalic to
Yeah.
come in to be confirmed, and then some more concrete news
Or
on
two, but
what's
or
happening with
both of them.
Atuesta. I don't think both of them are getting done this week, but one at a time. We're moving in the right direction. We just got to get these guys over the line, and if he doesn't come in, it shows that we are desperate to go out and find a replacement for. What seems
Correct.
strange to me is that we're just talking about Wilder like it's been announced and everybody knows, but it still has not been announced by the club.
Well, the club said
We've seen his Instagram of him literally coming out of surgery, so he's announced it, so everybody knows that Wilder has had surgery.
they don't have to say to
They don't
anybody.
have
They
to at
told,
all, but it's
yeah,
common knowledge, is all I'm saying.
yeah.
At this
I mean,
point, we all know.
they told me that straight. I was like, we don't have to tell you. We don't have to tell anybody.
I
You
think
know.
that's probably like a policy that they just have is like
Yep.
we don't announce, like it's a policy we've
Probably
had
like
for a long
HIPAA or
time.
something.
We just don't always talk
Like
about like
HIPAA.
player injuries. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but
Yeah. It could be. It could be.
it's
It
at
could
their
be.
prerogative. So,
Yeah.
but we know Wilder's going to be out for
Um.
a good while, if not the whole season.
For sure. William Diaz says strengths and weaknesses of Atuesta. He's a box to box player, not a destroyer like Wilder. Lineup change or adjustment. Now, let me get nerdy.
Ooh,
I
go
really,
nerdy.
I could show you a chart that I got from
Chart me.
this. I could get
Ooh.
very nerdy right now. I really don't understand any of this. But based on my calculations here, sir, MPXG plus XAG. I mean, he seems like a good player to me, man. I don't know, John. You wanna?
Yeah, I mean, he's a technical player. Let's put it
Yeah,
that
he's a
way.
very good player.
You are right, William Granados. You are correct. He is indeed like a
Yep.
box to box guy. I think Wilder in the role we played with a double pivot just sat really deep because that's what Wilder likes, and he liked the game to be in front of him, right? But Atuesta is more of a guy who can turn on a dime and go. So I think what like Cesar is going to be that guy who's like the ball winner. He was always that dude. I think Atuesta has the skill to sit a bit deeper and spray the ball around. And then also, if he wants to move forward with the attack, he totally can. And I like that for us. I don't think there's any problem, Luis, for us in the attack to have one of that double pivot move forward. We see it happen a lot. Like Cesar would be that one going forward, but maybe now they'll switch it where Cesar will sit most of the time and Atuesta will go forward more. Who knows? I think he's definitely able to play the role that Wilder played. I don't see any reason why he can't do that. I think defensively he's strong enough on the ball, good enough tackler to do the D mid role, no problem.
I think it was a great assessment by William that Wilder is that destroyer, and Atuesta it can also take the ball away from you, but his shot creating actions, as this chart shows, his completed passes, progressive passes in transition, make him, I feel, a player that may not be physically imposing, maybe like Wilder, but he's crafty in the ability of taking the ball away from you and generating an attacking play, which Wilder has a little bit of a tough time sometimes. And again, I'm trying to knock him down on Wilder, but Wilder is more of like, you recoup the ball, who would I pass it to? You know what I mean? He's not ready to go
Wilder
deep
doesn't
into
really carry the ball forward
right.
like
He
that.
doesn't carry the
No.
ball. Right. Exactly. Atuesta does carry the ball. He has the ability of carrying the ball. 94% of successful take-ons. And look at here, 82 touches, progressive passes, pass completion percentage, pass attempt. So, you can get a little bit more going off the counter, with Atuesta as well. And it will be a little bit of a boost there. Obviously, we're talking about stats that, as you know, John, they may change. We could be looking at the stats of Atuesta that are like super positive right now, but then he could have a bad season. It happens. You know what I mean? But I feel like he's a player that can give you those. So I think it's a plug and play. Uh, when John texted me, he's like, "Hey man, I think we're going for Atuesta." I was like, "What?" Like, I was like, "This is great, man. This is great news." And yeah, he'd be a plug and play. So hopefully these are the type of signings the fandom wants. This is the type of signings that the fans are expecting. So hopefully the club is able to seal the deal soon. Team Bedoya says, "I like the shot creating actions. It seems that we need a bit more of that. Eastern Conference Finals. I agree with you. We need to shoot the ball more. We need to shoot the ball when it matters." I feel like some of the fans at some of the games, especially in the playoffs, they will see like Faku dribbling or Ivan dribbling, and then they're like standing thinking, okay, he's gonna shoot, and then oh no, and it's like a pass. So I think we have a lot of shot creators. So hopefully with Atuesta, that could definitely become more of a close circle there. We want to talk about the U.S. Open Cup.
Yeah, first I want to say we got 19 people on YouTube. Go ahead and drop a like on there for
170
us
on X.
watching, and 70 on X. Please go ahead and
170.
107. Sorry, drop a like for us as well. Comment in there if you have any questions. Like we said, we're reading out questions, so anything you got to comment on what we're talking about or a question you might have for us, drop it in the comments and we will get to it. We appreciate you all being here in the chat and drop us a like. It always helps out. All right, Luis, let's talk about something that happened last week, but we haven't got to it yet, and it's very interesting, I believe. The North American Cup qualifications was announced.
Huh.
Now, if you don't understand what this is a whole document explaining to you why your club is in what competition they're in, which is honestly more openness than we're used to with MLS. So here you go. Major League Soccer has announced that MLS qualification criteria for the North American competitions for 25 and 2026, as well as participants for 2025. So this is the CCC, the CONCACAF Champions Cup, the Leagues Cup, the U.S. Open Cup, and the one that doesn't matter to us, but the Canadian Championship. So basically, it's
Why
like
is that
what
played?
tournament
I don't
is
know.
what tournament is our team going to be in? Of course, Seattle and Inter Miami are also in the 2025 Club World Cup that nobody wants to go see, I'm sure. MLS club participation. So let's get into it. Essentially, you're going to be in two competitions. So it says every MLS club can compete in at least one, but no more than two North American competitions. So if you're in Champions League or Champions Cup, you can't be in the Leagues Cup and the Open Cup as well. So basically, that's the rule. Of course, we are not in the Champions Cup, so it was pretty logical for us, Luis, to be in both the Leagues Cup and the Open Cup. So that's where we have ended up. Down here is the graphic kind of showing where everybody ended up and what they're playing in. Of course, Champions Cup teams were already decided by their actual qualification. Leagues Cup is basically everybody outside of it feels like more Western teams there than Eastern teams for me. And it doesn't really have any Canadian apart from Montreal, which seems very strange that they're in Leagues Cup. And then Open Cup is kind of like everybody else who's not in other things like Canadian Championship or Champions Cup, as well as some MLS Next Pro teams thrown in there. So yeah, Luis, a lot of information there, a lot going on. I advise if you're interested, it is quite interesting to read. Go look at all the parameters and all the qualifications and why people are in what competition. But for us, the important part is that we're back in the U.S. Open Cup.
Well, I'm excited to be back in the most historic championship in North America. I will say that it has even more of a relevance than the Champions Cup. Even though obviously the Champions Cup gives you a berth into the Club World Cup for sure, but I'm excited. This is a tournament that brings a lot of great memories for City fans, and not only that, but it's just a historic tournament, and I just can't wait to play it. Hopefully, we could see a mix of I feel, and this is what I would like. Again, I'm nobody. I'm just giving my opinion. I would like to see. I know the money is in the Leagues Cup. I know that's what and I know that the club wants to compete in every single tournament, and I'm sure they will. But at some point, we need to see some of the young kids. Make them have a chance in the Leagues Cup. They're going to be facing. I feel like for the Open Cup, I would like to go all in on the Open Cup. I would like to, just hopefully we can get another Open Cup would be amazing. To be honest with you, you know.
Yeah.
But it's definitely more dates. I think if you play the Open Cup, you should not play the Leagues Cup. It's just my opinion. I think it's too much. I don't know. I think it's too much. I just feel like if or I mean, if you want to play both, I mean, I don't think we have. I don't know if we're depth wise okay post Facu to tackle the league and two championships. You know what I mean? Uh, I will feel more keen to do the Open Cup than the Leagues Cup if I was somebody that had decision power. Even though I know the Leagues Cup gives you more of like more moolah, right? More money, right? I don't know. What are your thoughts? I think it's fantastic that we're going to be playing the Open Cup again. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy we're back in the Open Cup. I think it's as much as people don't, they want to bag on the competition and it has a lot of problems for sure. I think it still has a huge amount of history, and I love playing in it. And I really enjoy, even if I go to a game and we're playing the Rowdies or we're playing like Miami FC or whoever from Florida in the lower levels of the competition. I enjoy those games when there's like 5 to 10,000 people there. I don't care. Like, I'm not the one trying to make money on it, right? So for me, I enjoy it. The fact that people don't want to come, they think it's minor league, whatever, that's fine. I love seeing the opportunity to play teams that are not in our league. Like every other nation, Luis, I think has so many minor like leagues, well, not minor leagues, but lower divisions underneath your major division. The cup is such a fun thing because you can see all of these upsets happening. And that's what I enjoy about the Open Cup here is like I want to play a Orlando City versus like Cincy 2 or something like random like that. Like that sounds funny to me. Like, or Orlando City plays whoever in the Open Cup. I think is exciting to me to play other teams that have in USA that are not MLS teams. And I think Leagues Cup is the Leagues Cup, right? It was invented to make money off of Mexican Americans who live here in the US who support their teams. That's why there's no games in Mexico, right? So there's still with the format changes. There's going to be like hub areas in the US where Mexican teams are going to be based and play all their games there. And they're, it's probably going to be like LA and Miami and San Diego and like all the places that have a really high population of those teams. And the Mexican American fans are going to go. And the Mexican teams want to make money off those fans there. And that's why the tournament was invented. So do I really enjoy it for us to be part of it? Not really. I think for me, honestly, Leagues Cup, I find very much like, I think it's like Champions Cup light. You know what I mean? Like
Correct.
it's like, call me a traditionalist, call me a European, call me whatever you want. But for me, in order to play international games or intercontinental games between other clubs, you should have to qualify for that through playing and being the best in your own nation first. So the Leagues Cup to me kind of just skips over that. I think it's cool that they're trying to make some changes where they're trying to make it better because it exists and we got to live with it, and they're trying to make some changes whereby we're going to actually play more Mexican clubs. Like your matchups are going to have to be against Mexican clubs. They're just splitting it up into a two-part format. They're trying to make it better, but overall, I'm very unexcited about the Leagues Cup.
Yeah,
I'll like if you said to me like you got to miss some games this season, I'll miss the Leagues Cup games without a doubt. I don't want to miss an Open Cup game. Now I might be an outlier in that situation, but that's just who I am and how I feel about it. Other people might be like, I don't care about watching us play some minor league team from USA. I'd rather watch us play some Mexican team. So it's just your difference of opinion, but that's how I feel about this. So I'm very excited. And also, Luis, our chances of winning the US Open Cup are very good. I mean, look at the teams in here, like major MLS teams that we'd have to compete with in the latter stages. There's not many big MLS clubs right now.
Charlotte,
Like Charlotte, we could be up
Red
there.
Bull,
Imagine you imagine, maybe Austin or Chicago could be a bit better this year. Red Bulls, of course. Maybe New York
Portland.
could go far. Maybe Portland or Philly or St. Louis. But we're not talking like we wouldn't have to play like LA
Galaxy.
Galaxy or a Columbus Crew or a Miami in the final if we get there. So the odds of winning the US Open Cup with our current like squad and position in the East and in MLS in general against these other teams, we lined up very nicely. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to win it again. And I would love to see that happen. So yeah, but I also want to play the kids, play the kids in both. Like you can play the kids in the early stages US Open Cup and be fine and play the kids in the Leagues Cup because I don't care. And maybe they do though, because there's prize money there. So maybe the players care more about that one. Who knows?
I think we should have the kids start on both starting stages
I would love to
for
see that.
for
Really.
Leagues Cup and US
Yeah.
Open Cup
Yeah.
for sure.
I really want to see that.
Like,
I don't. I want to see those opportunities.
yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the US Open Cup not only is a more prestigious cup, but also it's obviously we have a higher chance of being a top team there. You have to understand whether you like it or not. Orlando City reached Eastern Conference Finals last season. They were one of the four best teams in the MLS. I mean, facts here. I mean, I'm not just you know. Uh, so based on that scenario, we have a higher chance against the Minnesotas, the Quakes, the Houstons, the Portlands, the Dallas. So You know, I like the fact that we're going to be facing also MLS Next Pro teams, and I definitely see now. One thing I do not want to see is just putting OCB to play the U.S. Open Cup and putting all your eggs into the Leagues Cup. I think that will be irresponsible.
Yeah.
I do want to say that,
But let's not
uh,
forget that both of these are ways to get a Champions League,
yeah,
Champions Cup spot. And that honestly, that's outside of MLS Cup, that's the competition that everyone cares
correct,
about the most. Whether you prefer a Leagues Cup or Open Cup, I think Champions League is, Champions Cup is the best, and it has
yeah,
to be. It's the most prestigious. I heard some other guys talking the other day about it was an LAFC guy, and he was talking about the fact that he's bored of Champions Cup because they're always playing MLS teams in it. And so they're like, they don't want to go watch it. And I'm like, yeah, I get that, but I still would rather go watch a Champions Cup game because it's Champions Cup than a Leagues Cup game, right? I think for me, I think also Luis, we're coming at this from a point of view of like you're a soccer fan with South American roots who has understanding of the game from Peru and in your country. I have the same thing coming from England and everything. So for us, we're kind of more in the traditionalists. Like we're more like what you
yeah,
would call soccer purists. I'm fine
yep,
with that. I don't care. So for us, like stuff like the Leagues Cup just doesn't make any sense, right? It's just a marketing ploy. It's a thing. Whereas the Open Cup is always going to win because it has that prestige. But your average American soccer fan is not always thinking like us. They're thinking like more like the American sports fan. And so all of this, Luis, is just like these are all cups in addition to your league stuff again that most American fans would just be like, why do you have this? Well, like this is a soccer thing. We don't have this in NFL. We don't have this in NHL, whatever. It's not always easy to understand. So when there's so many of these cups, I think there's just lack of interest. Whether if you're not a hardcore Orlando City fan, if you're a casual fan, you might have season tickets to MLS, but with all these cup games, you might just opt out in general because you're just not that interested. I can see that point of view as well. So sometimes we have to remember, Luis, that not everybody has all of this sort of passion and understanding for all of these things like we do, and sometimes your average fan just looks at this and says, I'm not interested.
yeah. I agree with you on that. We'll see what the club does. They're going to participate on, you know, the Leagues Cup and the U.S. Open. So I like the fact that we're back at the U.S. Open Cup, and I think we have a huge chance, man, to get another cup.
For sure, man. Do you have any more comments before we move on?
No, no. Let's move to the next one. I'm looking for Marco Royce
Yeah.
had some comments regarding the salary restrictions for the MLS. And
Oh, he did.
I'm looking for the video. I wanted to play it for the people. This comes from a player that has played, everywhere in the world, and he said, I just don't understand why they do this to themselves, pretty much. Once I find it, I'll let you know. But I was just
Uh,
looking into that.
I was just gonna quickly share with you the new Leagues Cup format. So, kind of like I talked about there, Luis, we have this. There's a phase one, which will be 3 consecutive matches, with dates per club to be played back to back. So that's like all 54 phase one matches will be played between MLS and Liga MX clubs, and that's like in a short time period. And then if you get, I think it's over about 3 days or something like that. If you get through that, then you get put in a traditional bracket here where you have Liga MX one winner versus MLS four winner, and it goes down like that. So pretty much every game is guaranteed to be MLS, I believe, for at least at the beginning, and then these rounds is guaranteed to be MLS versus Liga MX. And then if later on we'll see who lands where, but definitely some more interesting matchups. Like I cannot. That's the worst thing for me about Leagues Cup is like, oh, we're just playing Charlotte, but in the Leagues Cup, like that's that I'm really not interested in. So nice to see that we're moving on from that. All right, let's move on to our final topic. So this one, something that has been talked about for a while, but is really catching some traction at the moment, Luis, and that is the potential of MLS moving to the same soccer calendar or football calendar that the rest of the world has. This is something that there's been articles on The Athletic about in the past. There's been ones on ESPN, and this one coming from Sportico. MLS Moves here reporting. It looks like the calendar change is going to happen at MLS. Sportico spoke with representatives from 24 teams, and the overwhelming majority favored flipping the calendar. The league has cultivated a roster of well-regarded team owners who have racked up career successes across numerous industries, and they have big ambitions for MLS, which requires aligning the schedule with the rest of the soccer world. Luis, I, for one, am extremely pro this and very excited if this is going to happen. How do you feel?
I'm excited. I think this is if we truly want soccer to grow in America, this is what we got to do. Look, guys, soccer, FIFA has adopted this idea of globalization of the game since I think the World Cup of 1994, since the first cup that was in the US. Now, because of the internet in the early 2000s, it just massively exploded. So honestly, it's bound to happen. I mean, the MLS cannot have shootouts. It cannot have weird, wonky salary restriction. Laws. If you truly call yourself that you want to compete with the best leagues in the world, you gotta get rid of all of that. You gotta kind of adopt a more of a globalized model, and I believe this is the beginning of it. I think after this, we'll probably see pro rel. I think that is going to be next, but I think the MLS Cup playoffs, if this happens, will fight against the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs when they're talking about viewership. Is also going to clobber the NBA playoffs, and also is going to coexist with the Major League Baseball season, the beginning of the season. But it will remove for the league to compete against the NFL and college football, which everyone in the US knows that those are two sports. Well, it's one sport that dominates the country, especially in viewership. So uh, some teams in like I feel like Inter, Orlando, a lot of the hot-blooded teams are going to be obviously receptives of obviously moving to that schedule because it's going to be colder, it's going to be nicer, temperatures are going to be as unbearably hot. But also all the teams that are like Minnesota and New York, maybe not really so happy about that. Um, so I believe it also depends on what the players want to do because there's like the MLS Players Association. But overall, I think it's a positive move, and I think it's time. I think soccer in the United States has grown so much. It's time to show the world what America can do. And the MLS. Look, I cover a lot of other leagues, especially down in South America. The intensity of the MLS, the star value, some of the things are to me. I feel even better than what you see down south now. But one thing where more established and more historic soccer leagues tell you and grab you by is, oh, but your schedule is weird and wonky, or oh, you don't have pro relegation. That's not real soccer. So now I feel it's a great opportunity after the 2026 World Cup to show the world what the MLS can do and how much this sport has truly grown in the span of this 20 years. And I'm excited. I think it's great. I think it's going to even help with transfers. It's going to be it's going to make things much easier for the clubs and everything logistically. So I don't know. I think it's a win-win, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it 100%. Like I think that, like you said, I agree with all of that. I think that the most important thing for me is just the options it gives us in the transfer window. I think a lot of the time right now,
Yeah,
what we're struggling with is like MLS clubs are having to pay more money for players that if they were available in the summer when everybody's doing their business,
exactly.
they'd be much more like free flowing. Like I think if we made that shift, you would see a massive amount of movement of players in like the championship, for example, coming
Yeah,
over, or like Germany, I think it would open up like so many windows that I just think that right now we're having to pull like guys from Europe, are pulling them away mid-season, and they just don't want to let them go. Same even with some South American clubs, not all of them, but like some of the South American clubs. So I just think really it makes more sense to me to be on that schedule. I think the biggest argument, as people say, is about the weather. And I just every time I go, well, look at the NFL. Like you look at a
yeah,
Packers game, they're all out there in the snow, 90,000 people freezing their butts off, to watch NFL. So what is the difference, And I think the northern hemisphere teams, the ones that are really cold up here that are going to have real issues, it's get yourself an indoor stadium, right? Like take some of that. There's billions of dollars you got, and build your stadium indoors if you really have to, or find a way to make it work with heated fields. And but don't tell me that people won't come out and sit in the snow, because they will. They will do that for other sports. So why won't they do that for MLS? I don't think that's a fair argument, and I think that the same thing can be said for like the are we going to compete against other sports calendar wise on the TV? I think that's also an issue. I think that we shouldn't regard that anymore. I think from years ago, MLS was like afraid of like what happens if we're on the
we
Sunday as
compete with the
well at the
NBA.
same time as it's like there's plenty of room in sports. Like,
Yeah,
if you love MLS, you're gonna watch your club, and you're gonna watch NFL, you're gonna make it work. You're gonna watch you're gonna watch both at the same time. Like people do this. You can watch it on your iPad while you're watching the other game on the TV. Like it's not hard. Like so I don't think there's anything there about competing with, the NFL in that way. And I do believe that we can totally do it. And I think that there's room to do it. I think that MLS should stake themselves and say, we are strong enough where we can own our own part of the calendar. And I think the best part is that when we would have our MLS playoffs, then, which would be like what you're talking April, like May, really, like late May, if we're doing the European style, that's really like not a busy time in anyone else's like calendar, really. Like, so you could totally own May is like the MLS playoff time. You know what I mean? Like
correct.
there's other sports going on, but it's not like right now we get into playoffs and the NFL has just started. Like college football is going on, like NHL is like there's so many things. So I just think that you're always going to have arguments around the weather and this being such a massive nation. You can't please every market, of course. And I think you're going to have arguments around, competing with other teams and their schedule, like leagues and their schedule. But the most important thing for me is the fact that, like they say, and they allude to, if you want to be a big boy, you got to play at the same time where all
Right,
the big
play with
boys
the
are
big
playing.
boys.
So we can't be a league that is going to be one of the best in the world on our current schedule, because we're just always going to be making our big moves in the winter schedule when other clubs, the big clubs around the world, are not. So it just doesn't align, and it limits MLS in so many ways. So if we do
We
make this happen, and they're talking about doing it for the World Cup, Luis, I think that would be perfect. Do a mini season in 2026, call it for the World Cup, and then come back like everybody does after the World Cup and start a whole new fresh season
I
in like August 2026.
we should have an MLS's back style
Yeah, do a mini
season
one.
in 2026. This is what again. John and I are just, we just talking about because we've watched how the sport gets played out in other places. But I agree with him 100%. We should have an MLS's back style COVID era tournament for the MLS in 2026. World Cup hits, and then you start your new season brand new with a new schedule. That's how it should be. If they're serious about this, don't give me this crap about we're gonna have short vacation and then no. I mean, you got to make it work. Now we have some really good questions here, so I'm gonna read you guys. Um, it says here, Legacy Orchestra Collective. Sorry about that. The calendar switch would be huge. Relegation would be the best. I think it's time. I think, in my opinion, I think the MLS should buy the USL and just freaking
Relegation is nice, but really
yeah.
unrealistic right
It,
now.
it,
You
it
know what I
is.
mean? Whereas this could happen.
Right. I mean, this is the beginning of adhering to the world of soccer to
Well,
be like everybody else.
I would love pro rel too, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, I agree with you. How many MLS teams share a field with NFL teams? Those teams will need to get stadiums or alternate locations, says William Diaz. I agree with you. Yeah. Also, great job,
But
guys. I think. No, go ahead.
Louis, just sorry on that. It would force those teams,
Yeah.
like your Seattle's, your New
Yeah.
England's, would just finally be like, look, we know these clubs have enough money. They're owned by NFL teams. Like they have enough money to go out and spend and buy a
Get your
little
stadium.
20,000 seat stadium. Go do it. I mean, we did it, and we don't even have that much money. So don't
Actually,
tell
we
me they
were told
can't.
we we were
Yeah,
told we couldn't come into the
like
league if we don't have a
MLS
stadium.
shouldn't be. If you're going to that year-round schedule, it's a signal of times moving forward, and all of these clubs should no longer be playing on any field that is not a specific field for that team.
Also, great job, guys. I think Pasalic will be a good addition. Atuesta seems like a good move. Maybe pricey, says Legacy Orchestra Collective. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the support. Jessica, thank you, Jessica. Wouldn't it pull all the players on national teams out of more MLS games? A
No,
good
in
question.
fact, that's another major advantage is because we would be aligned with the FIFA windows. So no longer
Exactly.
would we. I mean, they've kind of solved that a little bit with the schedule this year,
Yeah, but we
but
will.
it's still a
It will
problem at
stop.
other times. Yeah, like we just had this January camp for MLS players. Like they wouldn't be able to do that anymore because you wouldn't have any. So there's so many advantages. You want to be on the schedule that the best clubs are in the world are on, and right
Correct.
now we're not, and it just it creates issues
And
globally
I think
in the
what
transfer
you
market and other reasons.
and I think it's key what you said because we heard it from Ersin Kara when he was in the team. We've heard it from Ramiro Enrique, from even Facu when he first came in. The level of intensity and physicality some of your second tier European leagues have, the Uruguayan league, some of the South American leagues, compared with MLS and the adaptation. You're gonna take away British Championship quality players, bring into the MLS. You're gonna bring out Bundesliga 2, Bundesliga 1 players. Like maybe you're tired of playing freaking Hoffenheim all your freaking life and
Yeah,
never make it anywhere, and you can be a star at freaking Houston. You know what I mean? Like that's huge for the MLS. William Granados definitely need to make that schedule change. James Regis says implementation will be interesting. Do you do a half season prior to going to the new schedule, or how does it affect Open Cup, Leagues Cup, and Champions Cup? That's a good question, John. You want
yeah.
to answer that?
I think that would be. I mean, they've just announced this is what we're doing for 25 and 26 with all these cups, but there you could forgo Leagues Cup and Open Cup for a year. You know what I mean? You could say for these teams and just be a half MLS season and just say, or you could still play them. And like, really, it doesn't matter. Like in some ways, like as long as your cup ends, like you could start the cup and have it end halfway through the year and then just
Yeah,
or you just don't do them and you don't start them until the new season starts, right? Like there's lots of things you can do, but in terms of just the MLS season, I think a mini half season makes sense. I think it would totally be the World Cup would be a great stopping point, and doing it then would really signal like we are now a part of the rest of the world and we're on the same schedule as the rest of the
correct.
world, and all the buzz that usually comes off the back of the World Cup and having it hosted it and everything, it just would be the perfect time to make that happen, I think.
Stream Jesus sub boys. John, that hat is fly, my guy.
Go get yourself get one yourself, man. There's probably still out there. It's the Honor Thy History one.
Looking
I got this in like every color. I love it.
Salty H2. MLS may be taking more seriously with the same calendar. Exactly. And I think small markets like Orlando can benefit tremendously because we can target better players.
Yeah,
You know,
like European players would consider MLS as much more of an option if they're moving in the summer and not the winter. Like
would you
France,
rather?
Portugal, like you know,
Right. We
Belgium,
can definitely
Netherlands,
give
Turkey,
a run.
Swiss, all of these leagues, you'd be like, oh,
Yeah,
I could go to MLS or
we
maybe
can give them
it
a run
just
for their
really,
money.
yeah, for sure. I think so much of, like we said, so much of what we're limited by right now, and that's why I'm so happy about if we get this Pasalic deal done, is because we're getting a deal done for a 24-year-old out of a European club in the winter for that money as could be a very good deal. It's very difficult.
Now,
Like clubs don't want to let their players go mid-season. You don't want to do that. Imagine us in the summer. It's like we're like, no, don't let him go because we want him here for the rest of the year. It's the same thing.
David Albury, you guys should come down into the wall for a meet and greet sometime. Oh, of course. Yeah, definitely.
I'm a wall season ticket holder, David. So come find me and say hi if you see
There
me
you
there.
go. James Regis, contracts will also turn into contracts that end mid-season, so that will need to be figured out. I'm sure all of that could be arranged by the front office. It's all about just talking and getting it done. I think the fact that the MLS is willing, and I'm surprised by Don Garber, and I think also he's being pushed for this change too, because I'm telling you guys, I mean, if you truly want to say that the MLS is competing, like I said, the MLS, if they start adapting all these little itty bitty and they start adapting into the world, how the soccer world works, automatically the MLS is gonna clash with the Portuguese league, which it's only Benfica, Porto, and Sporting Lisbon. That's it. Then don't tell me that Portimonense can beat Orlando City. Come on, man. There's no freaking way. Arauca, there's no way. You're gonna clash against Liga Two in Spain. You're gonna clash against. These are markets that MLS could. Who do you want to be? You want to be a Real Oviedo's striker of 13 goals a season, or you want to be have the lights of Austin and also get to speak Spanish. You know what I mean? And be and get paid in dollars. In the United States. So it's just the MLS is definitely a lot of all those other leagues are gonna be like, oh please no, stay how you are, stay how you are, don't change, stay how you are because now the MLS is going to compete.
Yeah, I mean Mexico, Brazil, like Argentina, none
Exactly.
of
The
these are on that.
Mexicans
We would
are,
be the North. We would be the American team on the European
yeah,
schedule more than anybody really that
yeah,
could be popular. So it would
yeah,
be huge.
huge,
And
huge,
if
huge.
they can do it in like there's so many North European countries that are on that schedule, so they do it. So it's possible here. Um, Also, Luis, I just want to say we are going to head out now because we got to go do another pod. We're going to go record something with one of the pods from around the league. We've been doing a lot of recording with different MLS clubs. So look out for us on different things as we go. We just did one last week with the designated pundits with Bob, and we're going to be doing one with the designated players soon. And as well as we're going to be doing one with battered MLS fans as well. So we're going to be around. So check us out. Thank you to everybody
Yeah,
who was here
200,
today.
230 people live, man.
Please go ahead and drop a like on the video. If you're on
Subscribe.
YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. Not everybody who watches is subscribed. So if you've not subscribed, please go ahead. It is free 99. Doesn't cost you anything. So go ahead and do that for us. You can also hit the bell notification. So that way, whenever we drop a video, you won't miss it. You can follow us on social media at LPO Podcasts on X as well as on Instagram. You can also find this on Facebook as Loud and Proud Orlando. You can also listen later or watch us later on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can see us there. If you're listening on Spotify, drop us a 5-star rating. if you feel like that's what we deserve, or 4 stars or 3 stars or whatever.
I don't
Just
like
drop
it
us a
less.
rating. That's appreciated. It helps us in the algorithm so more people can find us there as well. So thank you to everybody that was here. You guys are awesome. Hopefully, we're going to get some very exciting news coming in, Luis, this
Hopefully.
week.
Yep.
And then we will see you guys all this time next week with some new signings. Let's see. Alrighty. Thanks to everybody who was here. And vamos, Orlando.
Vamos Orlando. Take care, guys.